The engagement photos looked holy enough to frame. Matching Bibles on the table, church clothes pressed, hands carefully positioned so nobody could accuse them of crossing the boundaries. And every caption thanked God for preserving their purity. But behind the picture, she was crying in the parking lot, apologizing for questions she had every right to ask, and wondering why a relationship that had never become sexual still left her feeling used. Nobody warned her that two people can avoid the bedroom and still violate each other emotionally, spiritually, financially, and psychologically. Because you see, church culture often teaches women to measure a relationship's health by whether they remained physically pure, as though avoiding sex automatically makes a connection godly. So this is for the chosen woman. Purity is bigger than what you do with your body. It also concerns what is happening to your mind, to your dignity, to your peace, to your judgment, and relationship with God. Because a man can refuse to sleep with you, besties, and still manipulate you, and still control how you dress, and still monitor your friendships, borrow money he never returns, or punish you with silence, and even worse, demands access to your phone or uses scripture to use arguments while keeping you emotionally dependent. Of course, everybody else is praising him for honoring you. Do not confuse sexual restraints with spiritual maturity, because self-control is one area that does not excuse a disorder everywhere else. For example, the Pharisees, they looked clean on the outside, right? While Jesus exposed what was happening within them. And some Christian relationships are basically just surviving on the same illusion, presenting modesty publicly while hiding cruelty privately. You prayed together, but he used your confessions against you later. You attended counseling, but then he performed humility in front of the pastor and returned to intimidation in the car. You avoided staying overnight, right? But then he kept you awake until morning, defending yourself against accusations he invented. You never crossed a physical boundary, yet every emotional boundary you established became a debate. So listen up. If you're a woman that carries oil, if you're a woman that is chosen, a relationship is not holy because it has rules. It is holy when both people involved in the relationship produce what I call truth, where there is gentleness, where there is responsibility, where there is patience, faithfulness, respect. The book of Galatians teaches us that the fruit of the Spirit includes what? Love, peace, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. So stop celebrating one fruit while ignoring the rotten behavior surrounding it. You see, some men often use purity as proof that they are good partners because, well, it's easier to avoid sex than to confront pride. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? Or to confront jealousy or dishonesty or rage or selfishness and emotional neglect. So they will proudly tell you that they didn't touch your body while refusing to acknowledge how deeply they disturbed your spirit. And you may feel guilty for wanting to leave because he did not cheat or pressure you sexually or commit the obvious sins that women are taught in the church to watch out for. But harm does not need to become physical before it becomes real. Okay, so if you're constantly afraid of his reactions, exhausted from proving your loyalty, isolated from people who love you, ashamed of your own needs, and confused after every disagreement, the absence of sex is not enough evidence that God approves that relationship. So hear me, bestie. Stop believing that keeping a relationship physically clean means you must carry it into marriage. Dating with boundaries is still dating with discernment, and the purpose of courtship is not merely to resist temptation until the wedding. It's important, it's vital, yet it is to determine whether a person beside you has the character to share your future. That's what courtship is for. Can he apologize without blaming you? Can he hear your no without punishing you? Can he discuss money without the secrecy? Can he celebrate your calling without competing? Can he handle disappointment without becoming cruel? And can he protect your dignity when nobody else is watching? These questions matter as much as where he places his hands, bestie, because marriage will not be sustained by the testimony that you waited. It will be sustained by the character that you both sustained or developed while waiting. Some women are marrying men they barely know because the relationship remained pure. But physical restraint can create a false sense of safety when difficult conversations were avoided. Incompatibility was spiritualized and emotional abuse was renamed leadership. You can read devotionals every morning and still be dangerously mismatched. You can attend every service together and still lack trust. You can pray before dates and still leave each other feeling smaller. So listen, if you're a woman that carries oil, if you're a woman that is chosen, your marriage is important. You cannot just marry anyone or anything. So do not let the ring become the reward for surviving a relationship that has been draining your soul. Purity is important, but it should not make you blind. And obedience should not require some sort of denial. It is not spiritual trophy for marrying the first man who helped you keep a boundary while repeatedly crossing every line around your peace. You are allowed to honor God with your body and still admit that a relationship is unhealthy. You are allowed to end an engagement that remains sexually restrained but emotionally destructive. You are allowed to say that a man can be disciplined in public and unsafe in private. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 does not define love by what it refuses to touch, but by patience, by kindness, by humility and truth, protection, trust, hope, and perseverance. And if those qualities are consistently absent, do not let church people reduce your concern to being afraid of marriage or too difficult to please. The breakthrough is realizing that purity is merely reaching the altar without having sex. Right? It is not merely that. It is reaching every decision without betraying yourself, silencing your discernment, or allowing someone to damage what God entrusted to you. Chosen woman, the relationship may have stayed out of the bedroom, but if it pulled you away from peace, from wisdom, from truth, from community, confidence, and emotional safety, it was never as clean as everybody believed.